What's up, guys? Welcome to Information Operation. I'm Connor Ryan, and we're coming at you from Marquette, Michigan. We're bringing you your locally sourced ideas, thoughts, and inquiries. Today on the podcast, we have Lori Jokinen. Lori is a Nagani native, certified Baptiste yoga teacher. She is a mother of 2 studio owners and a retired hospital administration employee. Lori will also be leading a guided meditation series using my channel, so I thought it'd be sweet to bring her on for an interview. Without further ado, here's the podcast. Lori,
Hi, Connor.
thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely, it's a privilege.
Mm-hmm.
How are you today?
I'm great.
Just weathering the storm?
Yes, I am.
Rock on.
Yep.
So, Nagani native.
Yes.
What was it like growing up in the UP?
I have always enjoyed being in the UP. I appreciated Lake Superior, Gitchigumi right from the start. I knew it was something special. You know, I'd travel, and there's no big lake, and I knew this was important, and an important area, and I loved the woods. I was outside all the time, exploring.
Definitely. It seems like you make your own fun up here.
Yes, I think we do. Yes, a bunch of Finlanders with a lot of sisu.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And how has it changed over the years since you've been here?
Oh, it's grown. When I was growing up, I remember when Shopko arrived. That was a long time ago, and now it's just exciting to see all the different buildings, and there's so much growth here, and a lot of outdoor activity for people, and I think that brings people in now. And I just see a big different group of people coming in and really, really appreciating this area.
Right on. And was there like a shift when the mine was thriving at one point? Were you up here when that was going on?
Yeah, I mean, there's been ups and downs with the mine. I mean, at one point in the 70s, there was a lot of people not working, and people left, and then took an uptake, and both mines were thriving, and then there was a change again, but we all survive, and we all find a way to keep going and working and being
Right on.
here.
And have you always lived in the UP?
Yes, I did. I was born here. When I first got married, we moved away for three or 4 years to Mellon, Wisconsin, which is a very similar area.
Right.
So not a big change for me.
Got you. And did you raise your kids down there or up here?
We brought our oldest was like 3 months old when we moved. She lived there till she was almost 4, and then we had our daughter Danielle in Wisconsin.
Okay.
And then we came back when she was about a year and a half. Been here ever since.
Would you ever move away again?
Yeah, I would. I mean, not that I want to, but if something came up that, seemed to be the right thing for us, I would. Our daughter Danielle does live in Minneapolis, so there's always that option.
Right.
But we have a daughter here, so,
Right. And what do they do now?
Well, they both own studios, yoga studios. Danielle operates Minnesota Power Yoga in Minneapolis, and it's been around, I think, for 4 years, and she's doing really well and really loves it, and we support her 100%. We've been
Right.
there a lot with that.
Cool.
And then my other daughter owns a studio in Nagani, Honor Yoga, which she opened in August. So never did I think this would happen where we'd have 2 daughters, both of them having studios.
Right.
I never thought that would happen.
And that's pretty huge. Did you get them started into yoga?
Well, I started practicing yoga, I think about 20 years ago, practicing at home. And my youngest daughter, Danielle, was very interested and practiced with me. And the oldest daughter really didn't show an interest until, she was an adult.
Right.
But yeah, that's how it all started.
So you created quite the legacy if you're,
Yes.
influencing not only your own kids, but now your own students. You're touching thousands of lives.
Yes, yes. And that's what yoga does. People don't realize how many people are, really connected with yoga and how it expands out, especially when you travel. And then when you do trainings, you meet so many fabulous people, and they're like friends for life, especially in my Baptiste community. The family that we have grown is wonderful, and I can travel around the country and say, oh, I
Right.
want to go to a Baptiste studio. So there's that yoga connection.
That's awesome. And what sparked that initial personal interest in yoga? How did you pick it up?
Well, I didn't start exercising or anything till after I had my first daughter, and then I needed to do something to lose the weight, and so I did different things. I did aerobics, running, step aerobics, all that stuff. Went to the gym, belonged to a gym, had a lot of fun with that. And then back in the day, when I was working, and I had this really great boss, he was just the most wonderful man, and he turned to me, and I was smoking at my desk because you could smoke at your desk back then. Very bad habit. I don't do that anymore. And he said, Lori, you need to do some yoga. And I was 20 years old. And I looked at him like he was crazy, that that was the craziest thing I ever heard. I didn't really know what it was. I knew kind of, but not really. But he had learned yoga when he lived in California.
Right.
So he was doing yoga way before most people. And that seed, I think, stayed with me. And then when I saw a VHS tape back in the day, I bought it. I'm like, well, Dale said yoga is awesome. I'm going to try it out. And I was hooked ever since then.
Right. And that was just in the very early stages of yoga in the Western world, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like my teacher, Baron Baptiste, his parents had a yoga studio in California back in the day, in the 60s when it wasn't cool.
Right.
Um, and he trained with them, and he trained with a lot of people from India, with the gurus. And yeah, that's kind of where it all started. And his tape is a tape I bought just by chance. It was his hot yoga tape that I bought back in the day.
Right. So how did you continue that practice? Like what kept you going with it?
I don't think I really understood why I kept going, because I still did step aerobics and different things, and walking was a big thing for me, running for a while. And I'd always practice yoga on the side, and I knew I was benefiting, but I couldn't explain it. I couldn't put it into words then. And I just kept doing it, and I started falling in love with it more and more, and doing it at home more and more. There was no studio here
Right.
to practice that type of style. And so I just kept doing it at home, and then finding books, and then the DVDs, and finding out that you could go for training. And it was
Yeah.
just opening a whole new world for me that I didn't know even existed.
Right. And what were you not getting out of your normal life before yoga?
Well, what I wasn't getting, I was getting, strong and everything from doing aerobics and everything, and I felt good, but I knew something was missing. I knew there was another key, another component. I saw it in my boss back in the day that he was a whole person, wholeness, wholehearted being, and I thought that's what I need, and I think the yoga practice is the way to go. I bought Baron Baptiste's book, Journey into Power, and it was like, okay, there's more to it than just moving the body. And that's when it really sparked for me.
Right. I think there's this huge misconception when you talk to people, they like to think that yoga it's just stretching.
A lot of people think that it's stretching or chanting, and that's it.
Right.
And if they really, when you come to a practice, people are like, this is hard because, first of all, their mind isn't wrapped around it at all. So that's harder. And they want to be good at it right away, so that's hard for them as well. And it's a physical practice. I think you can get a cardio with it as well. And the benefits, for me, I mean, it has totally changed my life. So the benefits are the physicalness, and then the mental, the clarity, the
Right.
calm, tools to get through life, you know. And we have our habits, and then my habits create more habits, and then I'm stuck in my habits, and the yoga practice really showed me there's a different way, you know, to look at my habits, to realize I don't have to go to this old way of being. I can choose a new way. And so I go to my yoga toolbox,
Right.
which is mind, body, breath, everything,
Yeah.
and it's just you do become a wholehearted whole being,
Yeah.
the whole package. You don't have to rely on drugs or food or some kind of other thing to feel good. It's within.
Definitely. And I like how you mentioned breath because I think in even modern day exercise, breath is not emphasized like it should be.
Hmm.
And what is it about yoga that, breath is really, what is effective about the way that you breathe in yoga?
Well, most people, me included, shallow breathing is what we do. Just the
Hmm.
top part of our lungs, we breathe, and that causes anxiety and all kinds of things, and the rest of the lungs aren't used.
Right.
And once you start breathing in yoga, you fill up the whole lung space, and then your breathing is deeper, and you're less anxious. You're not
Right.
full of anxiety.
Yeah.
And
Oxygen-rich blood.
right,
That's what we learn in
exactly. It's
school.
getting everywhere in your body. And the breath is calming, and then any time you're in any situation, and it's getting, crazy and you're uncomfortable, a family argument or news about something that you don't want to hear, you can really check in with your breath and recenter yourself. And that's the start. And
Right.
that's why it's so important in yoga. And for most people, if they can master their breath in class, they're a master yogi. That's what the most important pose is, getting the breath, breathing deeply, breathing like to a count of four as well, not just, hyperventilating, but breathing in and pausing and then exhaling. Yeah, very, very calming.
Yeah, I definitely noticed a difference in my training when I started doing yoga. Do you think yoga can be somebody's like sole method of exercise? Do you think it's just as effective, or do you think it needs to be coupled with other things as well?
I think it can just be used. I do believe, though, that if people want to do more, they can.
Right.
I know it really enhances a lot of athletes. Tom
Yeah.
Brady, he practices yoga and, he's 40 years old and he's
Right.
doing well. And what I see, my own observations are that when you work the body in the yoga practice, you're working the entire body, the entire muscle system, the joint systems, everything's working together instead of just focusing on one area of the body. And I think that just makes sense to me, that you're building the whole body from the feet all the way up to the top of the head. You're not missing any areas.
Right.
And the body becomes so strong because it's all one working effort together.
Definitely. And I've done a little bit of research and noticed myself in my spine. There's a lot of like benefits for the spinal column that I
Hmm.
notice in yoga, not only from the little bit of reading that I've done, but just in my practice. Like this morning, I practiced for 45 minutes and I went in like I could barely put my socks on this morning because I fell off my snowboard
Mm.
like 2 days ago. And after practice, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go about my day. It's just
Right.
totally different.
Yeah, you reset your whole body, and I think sometimes people even say, "Oh, I'm tired. I should rest and not practice yoga." Where I think the yoga practice actually resets your body more and gets you more energized than if you took a nap, and just getting started. And then when we're tired and we first show up at class, we have resistance, and we're like, "Oh," But then once you keep moving and breathing and staying with the practice, you stay and you keep practicing, and then the
Right,
benefit is always there.
right. And people do have that opportunity to just like child pose or shavasana the rest of the practice. But
Exactly. I mean, that's what's so exciting about this practice is you can practice and then you can take child's pose at any time or shavasana at any time. You're still practicing because you're in the room, you're breathing, you're sharing the energy of other people and at home as well. If you're just resting and breathing, you're still not sleeping, you're focusing.
right,
You're
you have that
still
awareness.
You have that awareness and that union of mind and body, and that's what yoga means. It means to yoke the mind and body together.
That's interesting. I've not heard that before.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is there any other activities that compare to the benefits that you'll see from yoga?
Um, well, I'm sure, like Tai Chi or Qigong or anything like that, I think there's a lot of benefit. Um, for me, this works for me, and I see it work for so many other people because
Mhm.
anybody who breathes can do yoga, and anybody who is brand new can show up into a class of mine and be able to do, maybe some of the poses and take child's pose and then get back. And then if they keep showing up, they'll get stronger. And so I see that, but I do know that if somebody else can get a benefit from some other methodology, that's great too. I don't
Right.
think we should say that one is better than the other, but,
That's awesome.
you know, totally.
Even as a yoga teacher, just like
Yes,
totally
no,
open.
no, totally open. I would never say this is the only way.
Yeah.
It's a way,
Right.
but it doesn't have to be the only way. But I just see how much it's benefited me, my
Right.
family. I mean, I've had a lot of health issues in the past, and I would be interested and curious to see where I would have been if I hadn't taken this path.
Yeah, that's interesting. Has it changed the way that you stand on nutrition?
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, when I was 25, I was diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease. So I focused a lot on nutrition,
Right.
almost to the point where I was focusing too much and what I ate, and it was kind of really got to be very narrow focused, and I would base my day on how I felt and my food and my choices, and it almost got too rigid. And I didn't see that till, later.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing with diet, I think we need to relax about the diet. Yes, feed, nourish our soul, nourish, and when we're more aware of taking care of our body, we're going to eat, a more whole foods
Right.
diet. But I don't think we should beat ourselves up if we have some days where we don't. I think we should relax around that like anything else in our life.
Mm-hmm.
It should be, we can bring that perfectionism and into everything. And I did that with my diet for a long time because I thought that was the cure for my inflammatory bowel disease. It was just one component, and I
Right.
focused on that too long.
I see.
Yeah.
Now, do you notice a difference in your practice when you eat clean, or maybe had a whole pizza before you practice? Like, would you?
Yes. They say not to eat so many hours before a class, and I sometimes will eat something light because that serves me better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody has to decide on that themselves. But I don't think they should be rigid and say, okay, I cannot eat anything this many hours before
Right.
class.
Because there is kind of a rigid
Yeah.
yogi diet,
Yeah. And
correct?
I don't think, yeah, I think everything should be taken, like I said, relax around that, relax around everything. Be open to what works for you because, you know, I think being too rigid and it's like being
Yeah.
too right-minded. And I think, there's an opening, but I do believe that once people practice yoga and look at the wholeness of the body and then start caring about themselves and who they are, they do change your diet. It just comes automatically.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so it seems like this has brought you like a long way. How did you evolve from those VHS tapes?
Oh, what's really interesting, I just went to an advanced art of assisting through the Baptiste program at my daughter Danielle's studio. She's a Baptiste affiliate, and the gentleman who was facilitating the program, Pino Risi, he was like, I bought the VHS tape and I plugged it into the machine, and now we have this studio. He kind of just like brought
Yeah.
it all to that tape because it was Baron Baptiste, and now
Right.
my daughter has a Baptiste affiliate, and he just like shined the light on that story in such a different and unique way. And my daughter smiled, and I smiled, and everybody started clapping because it was just the way he said it was just so cool. And so yeah, I bought the VHS tape. I started practicing. And even though I was doing other exercises, I still had back issues for years
Yeah.
and years and years. And I'd go to physical therapy. I went to the chiropractor for years. And once I dedicated myself to a daily yoga practice, my back problems went away.
Yeah.
I have scoliosis in the low back.
Yeah.
If I do not practice,
You
they
notice.
come back.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can have days off, but I cannot take any long term off.
Now, scientifically, is that because of the compression and the extension of the spine during like sun salutations and
Yeah, I
movements
think
like
it
that?
just keeps, we have the muscles in the bones, and the bones are set a certain way, and then the muscles support our whole system. So when I'm working the yoga practice, I'm working every muscle system, every joint system, everything is connected. The connection of the body, I'm not just like, doing crunches to help my back. I'm doing the whole body, and I think that's the difference. The whole
Right.
body, if my bones aren't holding me, my muscles are helping. They're both helping to hold me together still. And I think that's what's working for me. I haven't gone to the chiropractor in years, even though I really liked it. I feel like doing this is enough right now, and that could totally change. I could
Right.
a year from now, I could be saying, "Oh, I'm doing that again," or "I'm doing this again." It just depends. But right now, this is working 100%. I see the results. That's what gets me back on my mat. The results.
Yeah. And how is that Baptiste? You talk a lot about Baptiste. How is that different than your traditional
Um,
style of yoga?
what I think is different is, Baron trained with BKS Iyengar back in the day. His parents, were yogis, and so he had learned all this by osmosis, and he talks about that in his book, and all his books. And he knew something was missing, and he also saw the way the Western world was going. People, they feel that the only way they're worthy is if they work really hard or put in long hours at work. And they also feel like it's a status symbol. And Brene Brown talks about this of being exhausted. Like that's a status symbol. And she says, people need wholeness in their life and wholeheartedness in their life. And Barron saw that too. And what he did is he adapted his journey into power practice, which is broken up into different principles: awakening, vitality, balance, equanimity, igniting, all those. And he brought it in for the people in this day and age to practice,
Right.
to breathe and practice and notice things about themselves. And then he also brought in the other two components, which are meditation and inquiry work, which is actually inquiry work is one of the niyamas. If you really study in yoga, there's like these yamas and niyamas, which are constraints, and then positive beliefs that you can also, once you get into yoga, you kind of go there, you kind of study those as well. And what he does with the inquiry work, which is considered niyama, positive behaviors, is asking yourself questions and then navigating around that and seeing where you can stop some of the beliefs we had as children that don't really serve us anymore. We pick something as a child and we carry that belief system into our adulthood, and it doesn't really help us anymore, but it helped us as when we were children.
Right.
So he sees that as a way of releasing those and seeing more of who we are as real people, being vulnerable, being who we really are at the core. And then that's when we learn that we're worthy, and that's where we get more benefit. And then when we practice yoga and calm our mind and breathe and acknowledge ourselves for how amazing we are, then everything comes right together as who we are as people. And that's what everybody wants, is love, connection, believing in themselves, knowing they're worthy. And that this practice totally brought me to that, and I see other people getting there as well. And then we have the authenticity, because Barron does not believe in following him as a guru,
Right.
or his teachers that he teaches are not gurus. They're leaders to lead you to your best life, and then you teach yourself. And if you stand in your authenticity when you teach, the students have to rise to that. It just has to happen
Right.
organically.
Right. So you're a teacher.
I'm a teacher.
And how did you get there?
Well, I started practicing, and even when I went to my first level 1 with Baron Baptiste in 2011, I did it to just enhance my yoga practice. I was still practicing at home, on my own, and that was limit to listening to a teacher talk or help you with your hand placement or anything. So
Right. No community.
no community whatsoever. It's just me. So I went to level 1, and it totally changed my life. I couldn't believe how much they were there to help me become my best me. Baron, his assistants, the community showing me how to place my hands, everybody just helping and saying, wow, I can't believe you just practiced at home. And I was able to keep up, which was exciting. I think I was 52 at the time. And we would practice 4 hours in the morning, with some teaching moments, and the sweating, because we would sweat.
Right.
I never sweated so much in my life. I never felt so amazing in my life.
Right. Baptiste is hot yoga.
Hot yoga. Yeah. Yeah. And it's awesome. And I never liked the heat.
Right.
I don't want to be hot.
Right. And you had never done that because you'd been on your own.
I know. I didn't even know they were sweating one day, because I wasn't really watching the screen as much as my husband said. He was walking through and he goes, those people on your screen, on the video, are sweating. I'm like, oh, I didn't even notice, because I'm just so focused on my practice. I
Right.
wasn't looking at their
Right.
faces, and they were sweating. So yeah, and that's another way to release toxins, and then you don't get as injured.
Right.
And yeah, it changed my life going to that level 1, which was not to be a teacher. It was a teacher training, but I was just doing it to enhance my practice.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And so you had been watching these DVDs
Yeah.
of Barron, and
Yeah.
now you get to see him and meet him in person.
Yeah, that was really exciting for me. Every time I meet him, I get excited, and it's because the things he has done to change people's life. He cares, and he's grown. I mean, I think his first boot camps, there were boot camps, and then there were level 1s, and he keeps changing them and improving them because he's growing as a person. I mean, my first class that I taught is way different than the class I teach now because I'm growing as a person. I'm more set into who I am and what I want to, share with people.
Right.
And yeah, it was overwhelming to have him walk in the room. And what I really liked, though, what I was really impressed with too, were the people that were with him, his team, how they stood in their own power. And that I thought there's something more here. There's something more here than just this, again, yoga class.
Right.
These people they believe in themselves. They're here to assist me. And the way they just stood and carried themselves, I thought, this is them honoring themselves. And that's what I want. That's what
Right.
I wanted more than anything.
And you say it changed your life. Like, were there any vivid moments that you remember that were like, wow, this is meant to happen to me. This is why I'm here?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's like a lot of little exercises you do during class. And one of the exercises was having to look in other students' eyes. And we had to do it for a long time so that we line up. There was 150 of us, and we line up and then we stand and we have to look at each other for a really long time in the eye. And it was very hard
It's
for me to do.
uncomfortable for a lot of people.
It was uncomfortable for me. I
Yeah.
did it. And then Baron said we were done, and I ran to my chair. Well, I didn't run, but I got quickly back to my chair. And then Baron said, if you got quickly back to your chair, you didn't get it. And I'm like, oh. He's like, and anybody who didn't get it, go back up there. Well, I wasn't the only one, of course. At first, I
Right.
didn't want to. I didn't
Right.
want to go back up. And then I'm like, no,
It was
I'm
on
here to
you.
take care of myself. I'm not going to, I'm only hurting myself if I don't go back up. So I went back up. And then, of course, I wasn't the only one. There was a lot of us that went back up because out of 150 people, we're not all going to get it.
Right.
And then Baron said, people are sitting, come up and stand in line, by somebody. And we all had these rows of people. And so now I was looking at like a lot in a row in front of me, like in a line. And it was a huge breakthrough moment for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I wasn't seeing myself. If I can't see these people, I'm not seeing myself. And I want to see myself. And it was amazing. It was
Yeah.
really amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
What other revelations did you have?
Listening to other people's stories was really incredible. When you do the inquiry work and you listen to other people's stories and you can relate, it might not be the same situation. I mean, what they went through is not what I went through, but we all have the same baggage, shame and guilt. And that's another thing Brene Brown studies is shame and guilt. She's a researcher, social worker. She's got quite a few books out, and I really love following her. And everybody, thinks they're not worthy and has shame and guilt. And that was one thing that I noticed was a constant. And somebody sharing their story helped me clear up mine. I didn't have to go up and share my story. We were healed by other sharers.
Right.
So, so many people share and then we're healed through them. It's pretty cool.
Right. So by the end of all this, you were totally ready to teach your first class?
No, I came home and at that time, I wasn't ready. I wasn't thinking I was going to teach. I came home thinking I'm not the same person that flew out and started this. And my husband saw it and my daughters saw the change in me. And they're like, wow, this is something. And then I signed up to do a 200-hour teacher training in Appleton, Wisconsin. I had been down to that studio a few times. Debbie Williamson trained with Baron Baptiste back in the day, and she had a teacher training. And I drove out there on weekends, and that's after I did that, I became a teacher.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And where did you teach your first class?
Well, I started teaching at home. I had we lived on County Road 510 at the time in the Negaunee Township area, and I had a room that I heated, and I had like a bunch of friends and relatives come over,
So
and
cool.
I taught them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I taught them for a long time. And then I finally started teaching at Marquette Yoga Center here in Marquette.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you nervous? Like, that seems like a really comfortable setting to teach your first class.
It was really easy to teach at home. And even at Marquette Yoga Center, the thing that got me was seeing the students.
Right.
Yes, I was a little nervous. You still have those doubts at first, especially when you first start teaching.
Yeah.
Once I started teaching the class, though, I was fine. Once, I saw the students and saw the benefit, I was fine. And But I do know that my teaching has expanded. You know,
Right.
because I keep practicing, I keep practicing the practice myself, so I feel like I can teach from that.
Yeah.
And I do see a change. I see a positive change, and people should grow as they, go through their life. We shouldn't be staying the same. So my growth has just been an upward trajectory of my teaching. And the thing is, when a student tells me, "Oh, that was a great class," it's, yes, I'm leading the class, but it's coming from the bones of the practice. And that's what's the greatness, the bones
Right.
of the practice. And you have the bones of the practice and teaching from that and teaching. I get real vulnerable and I share my stories and I share my doubts and fears. And I think that speaks to the students, my authenticity,
Yeah.
and that's what speaks to it. So it's nice to get the feedback, and I just know I'm on the right path.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you know you taught my first studio class?
I taught your first
Yeah,
class?
the first class I'd ever
No, I guess I
taken.
didn't know that
Yeah,
because
you're my first teacher.
you could have taken a class with Jen and I wasn't there.
Right. I
Yeah.
had taken a few at the YMCA and a
Okay.
few at the PEEF, but there was
Mhm.
nothing like Tulivesi.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was totally different.
Mhm.
It was the first, I think, real experience that I like
Mhm.
clung on to.
So what did you think of that first class?
I was blown away. Definitely not only by the heat, but the just the professionality of the class and really
Mhm.
getting down to what the practice is all about,
Mhm.
you know. What do you notice about like the practice that you didn't see as a student that you now see as a
As a
teacher?
teacher, I see, well, it's really hard for me because because as a student, I see myself in the students because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a student first and I'll list myself as a student. I'm a student first always, and then I teach. And what I see is myself. I see the resistance. I see the stories about, well, I don't know if I can come very much, or I don't have time for yoga.
Right.
And I used to make those same stories and excuses. And we all do it because that's our human nature to think we don't have the time or we're too busy or we don't realize how much this helps us and
Mm-hmm.
that we are worthy of taking care of ourselves and making the time. It's like if we don't move, we're going to hurt eventually.
Right.
And if we move, yes, we're going to hurt, but not as much. If you keep moving, it's not going to be, like if I wasn't moving now as I'm aging, I can't imagine how much I would hurt.
Right.
So now, anytime I'm a little bit sore from a class, which is not too often anymore because I, try to keep up, it's very minuscule because, I'm moving, I'm taking care of myself. I mean, I can crouch down and get into my cupboards and dig groceries out and,
Right. No
move around
problem.
and no problem and jump over seats and move around in places that, some
Right.
people can't anymore. And
Right.
yeah, that it's worth it. I see the benefit is so worth doing the practice. And, if we say it's
Definitely.
hard, I'll have people say it's so hard. I'll have young people come in and practice and like, oh, this is so hard. And it's like, if you stick with it, it's not hard anymore. And you look at it differently. We have to switch our vision
Right.
into it, and then you see that there's so much more that we weren't seeing. If we're seeing
Yeah.
this is hard, what else are we seeing that's
Right.
hard? I mean, because then we're making life hard, and I don't want my life to be hard.
No.
You know.
What do you think people are initially afraid of? You know?
Well, I think people want to be able to walk in the studio and practice, like be awesome right from the start because we're perfectionists. And
Right.
they think because it's yoga, it sounds like it's easy for some reason. I mean, I would never expect myself to go like now. I don't run anymore, but I used to run. But I would never expect myself to go run like 5 miles.
Right.
I wouldn't. I'd
Like
have to build up.
for your first run, go run a
Yeah,
marathon.
yeah. So it's the same thing. You have to start. Where you take baby steps. You do part of the class. Maybe you don't do all the chaturangas. You skip something so you can keep there and build up. And the more you build up, you'll surprise yourself at how strong your body can get.
Right.
It catches you by surprise because you do it slowly,
Right.
and it takes time. So,
So people who get into it and they get involved with a studio and they're doing it the right way, do you think it's for everybody? Because not everyone sticks with it.
well, I can understand why people don't stick with it either because our ego talks us out of it. That, well, that was fun, but, really go back to the way you used to live, because that's more comfortable. And,
Right.
oh, it's expensive to pay a studio fee. And, our health is worth it. I mean, we pay money different ways. Like we go on vacations that we don't really enjoy as much as maybe we possibly could. I mean, the payment of practicing yoga is so health wise beneficial, but people quit because they stop and then it's so hard to go back. And like I said, it's our ego. A good book that I recommend to people is by Jen Sincero, You Are a Badass. She talks about our ego and how
Right.
our ego talks us about living small and being small. And sometimes when we step up into practicing yoga, we could even have a friend or a relative or a spouse that says, oh, feeling intimidated that their spouse is stepping out and upgrading their
Right.
life, and they'll talk them out of it as well. And then we go back to living small because we just want to be even. We don't want to create any problems,
Right.
and we don't even realize we're living small. We don't know that's a concept. And
Right.
so there's different reasons, or we just want to be in our comfort zone of what I used to do. That was fun for a while, but now I'm not going to do it anymore. And that's fine. People have to find their own path.
Yeah.
And you can't be, that's that they might come back. They might say, well, this isn't working either. I better go back to yoga. Or maybe they'll find something else to do.
Right.
Just move somehow, some way, do something else. If this wasn't for you, maybe there's something else out there. This yoga might not be their answer, but it's somebody's answer.
Right. And like speaking of answers, and I was just wondering if it's true that some like religious groups oppose the practice of yoga. Is that true?
I've heard that, and I think it's because they get intimidated by thinking it's religious, and it's not. It's about people just feeling good about themselves and the wholeness, the wholeheartedness again.
Right.
And I think there are some yoga practices that delve into spirituality at an even deeper level and
Right.
bring in some kind of, but I don't see that in my yoga practice and I don't bring it into my yoga practice. I have my own religion,
Right.
my own faith that's very special and important, and that's there. And this has just helped me cope in my day to day life, like getting along with my husband and my family and
Right.
getting along with myself. I mean, it starts with self, feeling better about myself, feeling like I'm enough, dealing with, bad news, dealing, not wanting to feel sad all the time. That's where this practice has helped me make choices that I don't have to feel bad. I can feel neutral. And that's, so that's what I see. But I have heard that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Just because the practice, they talk a lot about, mind, body, soul. Is it a spiritual practice for you?
Um, I think, because I have like I said, I have my religion, and, we all have our spirit within us, our deep down core of who we are. We're
Right.
born with our essence, and we're perfect when we're born. And then this daily life gets to us. It's hard on us. Things happen, and I think, you want to protect that core, that spirit, and so yeah, but I don't feel like that's still anything to do with,
Right.
God, or, I mean, like I think even in Barron's book, 40 Days, he talks about God and stuff, but that's an example, and people can go
Right.
there. I mean, I think it's how you want to put it. People can make yoga their religion.
Right.
They can make anything their religion. So that's personal.
Yeah.
I don't make it my religion. I make it my practice to just be a whole person that
Yeah.
can take care of myself.
Well, that's cool that, it can be taken as a perspective of an individual. It's
Yeah,
not
I think it's
necessarily
personal.
totally personal.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was not the intention when yoga came about, because yoga didn't come about in the Western world. It
No,
was
no, it was out east, and even, I mean, I only know so much, and what I've read, like back in the day, even people in India wanted to meditate
yeah.
and, just sit quietly, and they practiced yoga to get their bodies strong so they could sit for long periods of time. That's what I understand. I don't know if that's 100% correct, but I
And that's
have
part of
read that.
Hinduism.
Yeah, where they'll sit and meditate for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And if you practice yoga, your body's strong where you can sit longer, you
Right.
know. So that's my understanding. There's probably more to it, but that's what, the little bit I know.
Gotcha. So do you think that the Baptiste practice misses out on any of those benefits that may have been existed in the traditional practice?
Um, I don't think so because it's a good place to start for, us Westerners who live in this fast-paced,
Yeah.
very
Different.
different world where there's a lot of information, a lot of noise, and we don't know how to quiet our mind. Because when you practice the yoga practice with Baptiste, Baron, prefers no music at all
Yeah.
during the entire class, so you can really focus on your connection with self
Right.
and see yourself. And he doesn't want to have, he doesn't like to have mirrors in the studio, so you're not looking at yourself, so you're really focusing inward because it's an inward journey.
Definitely.
Because that's how you expand out is going inward. We can never be happy by the outside stuff, like looking forward to
Right.
something, a new house, a new career. That's always temporal, but just going within. So that's what he teaches, and that's his practice is based on the past yoga practices, and then he's just brought it into today's world where we move strongly with the body and the fundamentals of plugging the feet in, hugging in the core, from the
Think
skin to the muscle to the bone, having that whole body alignment, the foundation. So I think his principles are all the same. And then once people are practicing that, if they want to go deeper into the yoga realm of what happened, in,
yeah.
like and study the yamas and the niyamas and the 8 limbs of yoga, there's all
Right.
kinds, you know.
So it's a good foundation.
It's a foundation to start, and then I mean, that's how I expanded on it is by reading all these other books. Like, I think it's Deborah Adele has a really good book on the yamas and the niyamas, and she's from northern Minnesota, and I really enjoy her book. So, and her talk, she's talking about the yamas and niyamas, and they're like constraints and about how taking care of yourself and everything, and but she puts them into today's perspective as
Right.
well.
Right.
So that's what Barron did, and Barron also saw a lot of people following these gurus, going to India and following a guru,
Mm-hmm.
and that's still not standing on their own. That's
Right.
following
That's
somebody
interesting.
versus his yoga practice is about standing on your own, being you, not, doing the principles. And his first foundation methodology of the yoga of Baptiste yoga is standing on your own in integrity, and it's integrity with self,
Right. Being true to yourself.
being true to yourself, and then and not only it's not about being a good person or a bad person. It's about being a person who, when you mess up with yourself, you just get accountable and you clean up your mess. It's not about, oh, I have to be this good person now because I do yoga. I have to be this perfect person because I'm a yogi. No, that's not true because then that's false as
Right.
well. It's
Right.
about living, doing the practice, and when you mess up, taking responsibility for it. That's where he bases his whole foundation, and that's where all the yoga I feel principles are based on is being true to yourself
Right.
and cleaning up your messes and being accountable and responsible.
Right. And that's pretty much universal between all Baptiste studios.
Yeah, I mean, he has criteria with the Baptiste affiliates that they have to hold because it's his name, you know.
Right.
And like once I became a Baptiste teacher, they send you a workbook that you can study and answer questions and learn about yourself some more. So it's always involving, and they have teachers monthly meetings teachers can listen to. I mean, nowadays with Zoom conferencing,
Right. To continue education.
we can continue our education or just connect with all. I mean, it's a huge connection with all these people. It's so fabulous. Like, I plan on going to Nashville in August, and I know there's a studio there
Right.
that I can go and practice. It's a
Right.
Baptiste studio, and so I'm pretty excited about that. And so, it's just a really cool thing. I'm not saying it's the only way, but it's worked for me, and I've seen it work for others.
Right. So you've traveled around to quite a few studios in your days.
Yeah, I've traveled. I mean, actually, and then when I trained with Debbie Williamson back in the day in Appleton, I got to know a really good teacher, Kirsten Holmson. And she has a studio in Wausau, Wisconsin. It's not Baptiste, but we have a connection. She co-taught some of my classes, and I follow her on Instagram and Facebook. And
Right.
I've really enjoyed watching her growth as a yoga studio owner
Yeah.
and what she shares. And I plan on getting back to her even, and
Whoa.
seeing her, because yeah,
And
she
what,
teaches a similar. So
yeah. And what stood out to you about Tulivesi?
well, I was excited right away to hear that it was coming to town because it was heated,
Yes.
and
So
I feel
Baptiste
that's
Yoga now, we've talked about that,
yeah.
is coming to Marquette.
Um,
This is the first ever heated yoga in Marquette.
yeah, I mean, Jen trained with Baptiste level 1, level 2,
Right.
and Nate, and Jessica Bentley, and Paul. They've all been to level 1.
Right.
So here's this studio coming to town, and they practiced Baptiste yoga, and I'm like, I was so excited.
Yeah.
I had just had surgery when Jen was opening, so I couldn't practice right away. I went to her open house, and once I was given the go ahead to practice, I started practicing there, and then I said, "Oh, I want to teach." And so I
Yeah.
auditioned, and I started teaching on Wednesdays at 9:30 in the morning, and I have been ever since.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
But I was really grateful that the studio came, and hearing the same Baptiste journey into power
Yes.
sequencing.
Yes.
I'm like, and I'm not traveling out of town to take a class like this, or listening to something on iTunes,
Right.
or
Right.
something like that to get the same Baptiste. It was a dream come true for me, actually.
Totally.
Yeah.
And what do you think keeps people coming back to Tulivesi?
Well, I think it's a community we've really created. When I come in the room, I just love, either if I'm teaching, love the students that have been coming for a really long time. I have a connection with them, old and young. It's
Yeah.
fabulous. And then I just love, if I see one of my, students or whatever that we really connect, I'm like right by them. I'm gonna practice by you today, and it's just, I just can't believe all the connections I have with different people.
Yeah. And how does that community come together? Like how does yoga really bring people together? Because you're talking about a self-guided pursuit, and it's
Hmm.
all, based on you and your perspective and your individuality.
Hmm.
But how does it bring people together so well?
Well, I think once you're in the room and you're breathing together, the
Mm-hmm.
breath, everybody's breathing together, and then the energy, because we're all vibration, we're all energy, and I think
Right.
that just connects us. And so I just noticed the more people in the room, I love a packed room because the energy brings up everybody. The practice is easier,
Right.
and I feel their energy, and it's an equal exchange, and it's really exciting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And Tulivesi is 2 years old now.
Yes. Hmm.
D-
Yeah.
do you guys have any special events coming up?
Oh, we have 40 days. 40 days to
Let's talk about the 40 days.
Yes, I'm really excited about 40 Days to Personal Revolution, a book that Barron wrote quite a few years ago, and he started implementing it in his studios. And what it is, well, just let me give you an example. When I go out of town and do a daily training for a week, and I practice a lot and we meditate, there's nothing like it, and I feel so invigorated.
Right.
And it changes your life. So what Barron
Yes.
is doing is, it's 40 days, and the students meet once a week on a Sunday. That's what we're going to be doing. And it's implementing the practice of daily yoga,
Right.
daily meditation, and daily inquiry work, questions, excavating into your own, where your belief systems are, as far as, you know, um, believing in yourself. It's not, I don't mean belief systems in your religion, and I think that's where people
Right.
get confused.
Right. They're
It's,
separate.
yeah, it's about how you feel about yourself and what you're capable of, because we're capable of much more. So when you implement something like this on a weekly basis, that's when people transform. I
Right.
mean, a lot of people go to yoga once a week, and yeah, it's great, but they really transform if they go more often. Like 3 to 5 is bonus.
Right. This is how he designed it.
Yeah, so let's say you practice every day, and you practice at the studio, and then you can practice at home, and you could do some sun A's and sun B's for like 20 minutes. It's not like you have to, you know, go out, but every day, put that in your day. Put the meditation in your day, which is just sitting quietly.
Right.
It's not, people make a big deal like it's some weird thing you have to do, just sitting quietly with
Right.
yourself. And that's when you notice things again about yourself and learn about yourself.
Right.
And so you have the practice, you have the questions, and that's when you look at yourself more. But if we don't plan the 40 days, it never happens. We say, oh,
Hmm.
when I'm in yoga, I'm going to read this book and I'm going to meditate, and it never happens, and it never
Right.
happens. But here we're going to have these groups who meet once a week, and then we're going to have like we can share on Facebook if we have things going on.
Yes.
So we're accountable to each other that yes, I am practicing every day. Yes, I am meditating every day. And at the end of that, they will see triumph in their life and
Yeah.
transformation for sure.
So it's like it's a guaranteed way to see the benefit, to see the
Yeah,
results.
to see the results because, like I said back in the day, I had inflammatory bowel disease, and sometimes I would be almost on the verge of a flare up or close to a flare up, and I would go to a week-long training, and my whole physical body would change, and I'd be able to not be sick.
Right.
And I kept noticing that. My doctor kept noticing that. He goes, your test results are showing this, but you're feeling like this. That's pretty amazing, that's overcoming your illness.
Right.
And so that was that, that kept me at healthy for a long time. Finally the disease caught up with me and I had my colon removed, but I came back, I bounced back from that as well.
That's huge.
So that's why I really believe in this 40 days, because this is going to give people time to stop and really see and notice, because we keep putting off, we keep saying, tomorrow I'm going to do this, and tomorrow I'm going to do this, and it never happens. And, I've heard people are really excited about this, to have their own accountability, to have a community
Right.
lifting each other up,
Right.
and being there for each other. And I'm just here to support everybody in the best way, whatever best way possible for them,
Yeah.
100%.
And I'm excited for it as well. I
Mm-hmm.
will be there.
Yeah.
And I'm excited mostly to get down to the meditation.
Yes. Meditation is really, yeah. I've been meditating regularly now for 2 years. I've, done it like everybody. Oh, I'll practice yoga once or twice a week, and
Right.
and that was what I was doing with my meditation. I was finally practicing yoga almost daily, but
Right.
my meditation practice was still on the wayside, thinking, oh, I don't think I really need it. I'm
That's
meditating in class,
yeah.
meditation in motion, which does happen.
That's exactly where I'm at.
Yeah,
Because I started
yeah,
tomorrow will be 2 weeks of everyday yoga, and the meditation is far behind,
yeah,
but
exactly.
I'm ready to embrace it.
Yeah, I mean, I read so many books on meditation. I would read books, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't do it,
Yeah.
because I don't know what I was waiting for. And then one day I finally sat down, and you just sit down on a mat or a cushion or a chair,
Yeah.
and you just close your eyes and quiet your mind. And that's it. It's not like, and then of course we have many, many thoughts, and I'd get drifted off in a thought, but I finally started noticing another calming, like another key to my wholeheartedness, my
Right.
wholeness of
Right.
me. And some days I sit for 5 minutes, some days I sit for 15.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's twice a day, sometimes it's once. A lot of times it's twice a day,
And
and that's really
you
helped.
start to notice what draws your attention away. Isn't that part of it?
Well, yeah, I mean,
To focus on that is important.
like I would start focusing on my breath or some. I like to play like music, meditation music, which is kind of like a music you would have in like when you have a massage or something.
Right.
And I kind of like focus on the music, focus on my breath, and of course my thoughts would get off on like, oh, what should I wear tomorrow, or what should I be doing? What should I make for a meal?
Right.
And then they
That's
would
not
come
the stuff
back.
I'm thinking about.
Or what did so and so say to
Right.
me,
Right.
or why did so and so say that to me, or oh, I got to tell my husband this, and then I come back and I start breathing again. And that's how it is for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks, oh, I can't get quiet, so there's something wrong with me. No, that's our typical monkey mind having fun with us. And I can't tell you enough, like, when issues come up in the family and, you see sad things that happen, I'll even sit quietly for a while to get recentered. I mean, if I didn't have the meditation practice, I couldn't have done that. It was the only thing that really helped
Right.
during some sad times, and just got me calm and like it's everything's going to be okay. That's, I guess that's the big thing. Like what I've seen in life, no matter what ups and downs, everything's always okay. It
Right.
always turns out okay. But our mind will get caught up in the story of it's not, this is the time it's not okay. And then that does harm to our body physically because our body doesn't know that I'm okay. I'm sitting in a chair. I have food, I have a roof over my head, but I'm worrying. So my body thinks there's something wrong. It doesn't know that I'm just thinking this, that,
Right.
basically everything is okay.
Right.
You know,
And do you think that challenge is necessary?
the challenge of,
Those challenges that we face are necessary?
well, you know, life is an ebb and a flow. We have the ups and the downs. And I think not one person is exempt, from that. I've noticed that over the years. Sometimes we look at certain people and like, oh, they've had such an easy life, everything comes their way, and it's not true. Not true. Everybody has a story to tell, and some can be pretty rough. And there's nobody who's going to get away scot-free. I think if you can live a really quiet life and not do a lot of stuff, and I think you can, kind of be safe, in a way,
Right.
but you're living a really, really small life because you don't want to be challenged. And I've done that too,
Yeah.
at times where like, okay, I'm 40 now, back in the day when I was 40, and I'm going to live, like this, and I'm going to just be careful and just not do
Yeah.
much, kind of these silly stories we get. But it's very small and it's not good and it's not happy,
Right.
and because we were born to grow as
Right.
people, to learn, to evolve. And when we don't, that's when we turn to the food, to the alcohol, to the drugs, or to whatever, because there's something more that we need to fill up inside.
Definitely. And that's living in a big life,
Hmm.
when you face that challenge.
Face a challenge, live the big life, fall flat on your face, and get back up. If you don't get up, then that's the problem. And Brene Brown talks about that in Rising Strong, about being down in the middle of the big, like the big arena. You're flat on your face.
Right.
Get up,
Get up.
get up every single time.
So you've been there. How do you teach people to go there with meditation?
How do I teach people meditation?
Yes.
Well, that was an evolving for me too, and I just teach what I always teach what works for me, and it might not work for everybody else, but I have to teach what I believe in and what works for
Right.
me. So I like to just have people sit and like at first, like because I'll bring meditation to before my yoga class. It'll be for like a couple minutes. I know you've been in some of them, and it's like, take a seat, sit on your block, sit on the mat, cross your legs, close your eyes, and start breathing deeply. And then I have people, I just talk them through like, focus on one area of your body. And then wherever your attention goes, energy flows. So that's the other thing, that you learn, like if you focus on your feet start tingling. If you focus on your top of your head,
Yeah.
because that's where, anytime we bring our attention, so just think, anytime we bring our attention in life to something that's bothering us, and we keep dwelling on it, all that energy is going to that problem and not in solving the problem. We're just, we're just making the problem worse. So I like to put my energy on, like now I'll look outside and I'll be like, oh, this is so beautiful and this is so beautiful. I appreciate more and
Right.
more all the time. And that's even changed my comfort, how comfortable I feel. Like I'll be driving, I drive to Minneapolis a lot and visit my daughter Danielle, and I'll be driving and I just look at the view and I see how beautiful this is instead of thinking about, oh, I have 4 more hours. I just,
Yeah.
oh, this is beautiful, that's beautiful. And I feel calm and better instead of thinking about, I hope it's not too much
Right.
traffic. I don't go there anymore.
Right.
I choose to just be comfortable with my thoughts,
Right.
as much as
Because
possible.
yeah, the world is really what you make it.
It is, yeah. And of course, there's moments when go back to my old ways of being, my old ways of thinking, but I notice them so quickly now.
Right. Your
You know,
toolbox.
yeah. I notice them. I'm like, oh, that's how I used to be. I'm so glad I don't do that anymore, or as much. Because we're gonna have our moments, we're gonna
Right.
have our days, because we're all human beings. There's no, we're not gonna go floating through life and everything's la la la, because it's not. We're still gonna have our moments where we get really upset and angry and sad, and But those moments are way less for me than they've ever been in my entire life. Thanks to my practice, thanks to not putting so much emphasis
Yeah.
on stuff that's sad,
Yeah.
you know.
So the meditation will be part of the 40 days, the yoga 6 days a week, and then the
Hmm.
inquiry. Inquiry is questions you ask
Questions.
yourself.
Yeah, it's like, how do you feel when this happens? Or
Okay.
what, like starting with what's your intention? Why are you here?
Yeah.
40
Sometimes
days.
those questions are hard for people, which I think is the
I
point of it.
Yes, when I first started doing Baptiste trainings and they would ask a question, I feel like my mind would just go blank right
Yeah.
away and I couldn't think of a thing. And I have to be honest, when I do Baptiste training, sometimes I'll go for a week-long training or a weekend and I'll come home and I'm like, oh, now I have something to share, and I'm home. But that means I still benefited. I'm just not quick at saying, oh, wait a minute, hey, I want to share this, or this is what is
Right.
happening. It's all good.
You're still pulling
It's
from.
all good. I'm still learning and growing. And if it clicks with me later, like some people might do the 40 days at the studio and they do the whole, they show up every week and they practice and they'll be like, oh, I don't know. And then 2 weeks later, when it's all done, they could be like, oh, I get it.
Right. And that's okay.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong. We don't have to be like, well, this has to happen and this has no. Whatever happens is perfect. And wherever people show up, like when people show up to the studio, they think they have to know something.
Yeah.
When babies start walking, do they think they have to know something? They don't know. They just start walking. So when you walk in the studio, you just show up and you start practicing. You don't have to
Yeah.
know anything. You just look at somebody else. Oh, that's where they're putting their foot. The teacher said this. I'll try my best. Before you know it, they're rocking out their practice.
Yeah.
But it takes time. Sometimes it takes weeks, and I'll have certain poses that I'm still, figuring out after years of practice,
Yeah. And
that I'm
you,
like, oh, this is how this pose is supposed to feel.
yeah. And
Yeah,
you know what I've taken away from that is that you can do that with anything,
exactly.
you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Holding the pose in a class and struggling, and then, oh, okay, I'm going to release that. I'm going to start breathing and relax and the pose gets easier. Well, that's what you can do in life.
Yeah.
When things get difficult in life, okay, here's my pose. Am I going to react and get angry and get scared, or am I going
Right.
to breathe and know that a solution will come, we'll figure it out. It might not be the solution I want,
Right.
that because magically we always want this really, cute little thing with a bow on it.
Right. Like a trophy.
Yeah, but that's not, that maybe isn't what we're supposed to get. I mean, if I didn't have the struggles I had in my life with my illness, especially, I would not be where I am right now. That disease had to happen. My surgeries had to happen so I can get to where
Right.
I'm supposed to be.
And here you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Rising to the top.
Right on.
Hmm.
And another cool progressive class that you've brought to Tulivesi is Yad.
Yod, yes,
Tell me
yes.
about Yad.
Yod is your own determination. My daughter Danielle devised it. She has, been in the fitness world forever. She went to Northern and then she started teaching at the Y, like when she was going to Northern. She just went to the Y and said, I can do this, I can teach this. And she's really good at just figuring that out and just teaching it.
Yeah.
It's natural for her. Where me, I need the more like, this is what you need to do first and second. And then she moved to Minneapolis and she was a personal trainer at Lifetime Corporation. It's a big corporation,
Right.
especially in Minneapolis. And she did really well as a personal trainer, like really, really well. And but she knew there was something more. And she had been practicing yoga practice, and she did teach yoga at Lifetime. And then she went to her first level one with Baron. And that was a light bulb moment for her that she's like, oh, this is the yoga I'm supposed to be teaching. Because she had trained under something else, some form of yoga. And, so she, was teaching yoga with her clients at Lifetime even, putting them through some yoga routines that were helping them.
Right.
And then she opened a studio and, it just kind of snowballed from there for her. And then, and she loves the Baptiste practice. And then she's like, oh, let's change it up a little bit. Let's put something in the middle. So this evolved slowly. She started having her students do this where they do 20 minutes of yoga and then they would do some high intensity interval training in the middle.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, let's do this. So they started doing it. And she was getting really successful, and she was seeing that people were working every plane of their body more. There was something more to it. It's just
Mhm.
something, a different fun class to add,
Yeah.
and build more community. And so with that, she has made a program. She trademarked Your Own Determination. And now she has, I think, 90 teachers around the USA that are,
It's
t- you
incredible.
know, certified yod
Right.
teachers, and that's growing all the time. Students are saying, "Can you come here and teach a bunch of our teachers
How to do
yod?"
it.
So they have yoga at the studio, and then this is just, like I said, a 20-minute warm up, and then you do a little bit of an integration with some poses, like you do some squats and some cobra poses, and maybe you hold warrior two for 20 seconds, and then you go into an interval where you do like push-ups, and then you might do some
Don't say push-ups.
push.
People might not
They're fun.
come.
I mean, you do 10 push-ups and then you move on to something else.
Yeah.
That's what I like. You move on to something else and then you go back, and it's only for 12 minutes. It's not
Yeah.
like this
That's totally
long.
doable.
It's so doable. And people, I mean, I'm seeing every age walk in the door and like look at the list and go, "Oh no, I have to do, you know, um, air squats or lunges or skaters, and there's swimmers." And then they do it and they're like high-fiving everybody, because afterwards we high-five each other and kind of like,
Yeah, yeah. It's
like,
more of a,
yay,
like a,
celebrate. We celebrate
yeah.
ourselves right after that. And then we
Yeah.
get back and we do the cool yoga cool down. So what Danielle saw, she thought was missing from the fitness studios where they do this high intensity interval training and that's it. She thought it's so nice to incorporate the warm up,
To have both.
yoga warm up, and then do the high intensity. And now that I've been doing it on a regular basis with the yod training, I'm noticing that my body's changing a little bit more. I'm stronger, and I'm not sore. When I first did the yod training, I'd get sore when I
Yeah.
did the yod practices, and now I'm getting students saying to me, "Oh my gosh, I'm doing this, and I was sore, and now I'm not,"
Right.
or "I'm finally getting it," and they're loving the yod practices, and we're hoping to bring more of that
Yeah.
into the
And it's
area.
almost like sport specific training for yoga.
I know, it's
Because
so cool.
it will transfer.
It
It
totally
will make you
transfers.
better
Yeah,
at some
it's
of the postures.
yeah, and what Danielle just sees, it's working more planes of the body, And then my daughter Brianna, in her studio in Nagani, also has yod at her studio, and it's one of her biggest classes. Like her yod classes are packed.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. And I'm glad it's doing really well because I'm sure there was some skeptics at first.
Yeah, I think people question, "Oh, is that yoga?" And the thing is, what Danielle, wants you to do, even when you're doing the yod interval, you're doing it more moderate. You
Yeah.
don't want to go all out because you still want, she is so into integrating the muscles, stacking the bones, getting the posture correct. It's not about racing to the top
Right.
or being the first one done. Some people are still in that mode. I notice that in the studio when they're practicing. But what it is moderation and focus. That's still the key, and that's what yoga is as well.
At your own degree.
Moderate the body to your degree, and then the focus. And the focus of what you're doing. Each time you lunge back, you focus. It's not just lunging back with no thought to that. It's
Right.
bringing your foot back and noticing how you're stacking your bones and then bringing it back up. So you have that focus again, and that's where you get that meditation in motion.
Yes.
And when I do that, I get more unstuck. When I'm doing the yod practice, I get more unstuck in my life.
Because that's totally different than some of your monotonous exercise when you're just totally mindless, just knocking reps out. I
Right.
noticed that
Yeah. Oh,
in
yeah.
different styles of training.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure another huge difference in yacht training rather than typical gyms is the ego component.
Yeah, again, ego. I mean, that's the thing. When people when they first do the high intensity, they're like competing. Like when I go to
Yeah,
Minneapolis, I'll see some men in the front, and they're like just competing with each other, and that's the
totally.
ego. That's the
Totally.
ego. And then what comes about later through the practice is people notice the integrating of the body, and they notice their back muscles getting stronger, and then they start slowing down, and then they realize, who are they competing with?
Right.
That's
You're just
silly.
being your best.
It's our ego, and it's always going to be there. And our ego reminds us of certain things. So we have to have the ego. We have to have that, but we need to notice what's coming into play here.
Right.
So yeah, she brings in the mindfulness, and then like at the end when we do the cool down, that's where you can say, see who you are. And even during when people are doing the high intensity, I'm talking to them and saying, you know, look, see, what's possible. What are you learning from this? There's something here. And so, yeah, there's always something there. You get a little bit more unstuck in your life when you do the high intensity right there in the middle. Yeah. It's
Definitely.
a little nugget. It's like this, in the warm-ups, I mean, the warm-ups, a regular 20-minute, heavy duty warm-up, with the sun A's and the sun B's and the, flip dog. And it's not like, it's some
Definitely.
stretchy little warm-up. You're warming up just, I mean, some people do the odd warm-up and they're like, that's just the warm-up,
Right.
but then everybody feels so energized and excited afterwards. And that's what I love. And even somebody made a comment the other day after Yad, they're like, we were in the locker room, whatever, the front of the studio, putting our clothes on, getting ready to leave, and somebody goes, "Look, listen to the chatter here. People are so excited. Usually it's quiet after yoga class, and everybody's like, ah, da, 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 talking because they're so excited and pumped what they just did.
Totally.
That they did that. They did that, and if they can do it, they can do anything in their life, and that's where they get the empowerment.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And kind of talking about the ego, where do you think social media and does that have a place in the yoga world? Because
The
it seems like the ego is kind of fueled by social media.
Exactly. I mean, that's, everything like, yes, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I post things, and people get caught up in that.
Uh-huh.
Like again, Jen Sincero talks about the ego. There's the, I'm awesome ego, and then there's the I'm not awesome ego. It's all encompassing ego, and she calls it the big snooze. And
Yeah.
we live in the big snooze of either thinking we're awesome or not awesome, or trying to be safe, comparing ourselves with other people, and then social media. We have to look at social media and relax. Again, that's one of my favorite words is relax around our diet, around our exercise, and just show up and do it, but don't let the perfectionism go. And anybody who posts on social media, they might look like they live this fabulous life, but we have no idea.
Yeah.
They still have a story that'll bring you or them to our knees or their knees as well if we want to stop and listen to their story. But on social media, it's so easy to take that 20 pictures of somebody in a yoga pose and get the perfect one and then post it. And I've posted yoga poses with challenges, and I'm not doing it to say, "Hey, I'm awesome." I'm like, "Look, I'm doing this, and I am awesome because we're all
Yeah.
awesome."
That's what you're passionate about.
Yeah, I'm so passionate about it, and it's about I'm 59 years old, and I'm rocking out a yoga pose, and I could be doing something different, and I'm not, and I
Totally.
feel good, and I love, like, we just had a challenge with the Bird on a Perch, and I did that challenge, and Tulivesi and Bird on the Perch together, and I learned so much about myself during the challenge, like taking the picture of the pose, and then like, oh, my low plank could be a little bit adjusted, and and oh, this was fun, and it built community, and I saw other people doing it, and it was really, I got a lot more out of it than I thought I would. And and it's somebody can look at it and say, oh, read more into it if they want, or any of these pictures if they want, and people are just having fun and posting about their life and celebrating where they are. And that's what people should be looking at instead of judging. And then, the other thing too is, and Jen Sincero talks about this in her book as well, where if we do something, then other people have to like question what are they doing, questions where they are at in their life, like, you know like anytime somebody's doing something and it's like awesome, and it might not even be that awesome to that person, but somebody else is like, man, they're doing that and I can't, and it's like it questions what they're doing or where they are, and sometimes then they can't acknowledge somebody else because then that means they have to question where they are. Oh, I'm not stepping up, because it's easy to not step up in life.
Yeah.
So, because I've had, people, say to me, my husband really isn't encouraging me, and it's because, well, then he might think he has to step up.
Right.
He has to look at
Right.
himself. It's all because anytime somebody says something to you, it's not really about you, it's about them.
Yeah, you
And
told me that
yeah,
about like people who care about you might tell you not to do something.
yeah, people who really truly love you, but then it's because it's questioning about them. It's not about you. It's about questioning about where they're at. Are they stepping up to the plate? Are they stepping into their greatness?
Right.
You know, because when you see somebody else stepping up into their greatness and it's your sister, your best friend, and you're not, you know, that can break up friendships even, you know, because it's like our ego again, it's our big snooze is telling us to hold back, stay back, be small, live small. Like
Yeah.
I've seen people who are really great in their life and they don't want to, they don't want to, they, if they're shining too much, then that's dulling the person next to them and they think they shouldn't. So they pull back. I've seen it a lot.
Yeah.
You know, they're not willing to show who they really are because they don't want their spouse or their boyfriend or whoever to feel bad,
Right.
you know, and you got to go for it. You got to go for it, you know, and just, and then support whoever's living with you or with you. Say, you know, I support you. And, you know, and I'm supporting myself. And when you support yourself, that's going to inspire somebody else. You know, if you both step down into the low comfort zone, living below the line, that's no fun.
Right.
You know, I mean, you can do it. It's comfortable. You don't get as, you know,
It's
because when
just
you,
not fulfilling.
it's not
It's not
fulfilling. And if
gonna.
you step out big time, that's, you know, you step
Right.
out,
You
you
get
know,
that fire in your
you
belly.
got that
You
fire
just
in your
feel
belly.
it.
And yes, you can get people saying stuff. Let them say stuff, you
Right.
know, just be with your integrity, who you are. Clean up your messes. Be kind. Be kind to yourself first. Be kind to others.
Be honest. Have integrity.
Right.
It's huge. Lori, where would you be without this stuff?
I was meant to do this. I mean, I just feel like I was being, you know, I was being pushed into this my whole life. You know, I
Yeah.
didn't know it, you know, like I worked in an office for years and years and years. And I really enjoyed, I really enjoyed that. I started out as a secretary back in the day. And yeah, I never knew this is where I was supposed to be. And
Yeah.
now I know this is where I was supposed to be. I don't even think I work anymore, and I work more than I did when I was in the
Right.
office.
Right.
Putting in so much time with my teaching and with my learning, you know, and all this 40 days. I'm putting
Yeah.
a lot of time into it, and
Totally.
it's fun,
Totally.
you know, because I believe in it. I
Right.
believe in this so much.
And it'll pay off in your heart,
Yeah,
not
exactly. Oh,
not,
right.
not in your wallet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It
not,
pays off exactly where it's supposed to. Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And do you still have any questions about yoga that you haven't answered for yourself yet?
I'm just really excited to see what happens next.
Yeah.
You know, I had a woman contact me the other day. She wants to start a support group, kind of a support group for people who have, you know, like ileostomies and colostomy bags.
Mm-hmm.
And she thought I'd be the perfect person to help with that because they want to bring yoga and meditation into their group. And I had a bag back in the day for a short time. I had a inflammatory bowel disease. And it's out of the blue. She contacted me. You know, you think it's out of the blue, but it's not really. That was the
Right.
path of my path. And I know I have a lot to offer a group like that because when I was going through my bowel disease and, you know, having my ileostomy and having a bag and all that, I felt alone. You know, there
Yeah.
was like no support. You know, a lot of other places, there's a lot of support, like breast cancer, there's a lot of support and stuff. And I noticed there was lacking support in the area. And there's a lot of people who have this issue. For whatever reason, they ended up, you know, with this. And people can practice yoga and have a colostomy bag.
Right.
And I want to, you know, show them that. So when she contacted me, she said, "Are you interested?" I said, "Yes."
That's
That's what I'm
awesome.
supposed to be doing. It's another part of what I'm supposed to be doing in this life.
Right
Yeah.
on. What got you through that?
Oh, through the surgeries and all
Yeah.
that. Well, you know, I was pretty sick, you know, for part of the time. You know, first with the inflammatory bowel disease, I was wasting away. I was wasting away. I was
Yeah. When you say sick, you're not saying like I had like a
no,
cough. It was
no. Like I thought, you know, there was a point where we thought you know, wasn't going to make it. I mean, I was in the hospital for one of my flare-ups toward, you know, before I had surgery, for like 14 days and on, you know, high drugs and prednisone, you know, Solumedrol to save me. It basically saved me. You know, wasn't my time. And then you know, I was better for a while, but it was just like a bandage, you know. And then I got sick again, and then you know, I was told, oh, you really should have your colon removed. It's so damaged, you
yeah.
know, it's so damaged. It's been you're holding it. I was holding it together with my yoga practice, I really was holding myself together with that. And then,
You were still practicing?
oh yeah, it was, not always. I
That's
mean, not when I was
badass, Lori.
super weak, but,
Badass.
it was less than, not like what I do now, of course.
Yeah.
And then I had surgery at Mayo. I had 3 surgeries, had the colon removed, and had a big. And then I went back 3 months later, and I had another surgery where they built me a new colon, where they cut my intestines, and it's called a J pouch. And then I had some issues during that. It didn't go like I was supposed to. I was supposed to leave the hospital, and I couldn't. I was in a lot of pain. I ended up with an ileus, which is swelling of the intestines, and I had a blockage, and they didn't find it right away, and it was an issue. So I was in a lot of pain, and the only thing that helped was I started deep breathing because they would give me drugs and they weren't helping. I was in so much
Yeah.
pain. I started deep breathing and just relaxing my mind like I was in a yoga pose. And the pain finally went away because I wasn't focusing on the pain, you know,
Right.
because where your thoughts go to the pain, which is so easy to do, and I still do it, of course, but the minute I stopped, it went away. And then they found the problem and they corrected it. And then I went home and then I went back for my third surgery where they connected me. Everything was healed so I
Yeah.
could have be connected to the new colon that they built for me. And then after my 6 weeks, I started practicing and I had incisions and I had to start out from scratch. My yoga practice started out from scratch,
Yeah.
because I mean I knew what to do, but my body wasn't strong. And it took me, I'd say, 8 months to get my yoga practice to some kind of semblance of what it used to be. And then it's actually taken me 2 years for my body to get back to a normal weight. I didn't think I was ever going to gain weight. It seemed like I wasn't gaining weight,
Yeah.
and I didn't know if it was just because I didn't have a colon, not taking in nutrients. You question it, but I think it just takes time for the body to heal. And I think this is what I've learned when you practice yoga, I think people want to see results like in 2 weeks, and that's just not going to happen. You might start feeling better right away, but it takes, I'd say, a good year of practice to really see the benefits, to feel the benefits really profoundly.
Yeah.
And then because it's such a slow process, we don't even know how much we've changed. We don't know that it's built up that much, because it's a slow process, it's increments,
Right.
and if we practice and trust the process, it'll change our life. We're in a society of results, results,
Right. Right.
results.
Right. Trophies, medals.
Yes,
Right.
results, and it takes time. It takes time, and it's
Patience.
worth it. It's
Yeah.
worth it. To do the daily ritual of whatever's in your day, to make your future brighter. And all I want to do is, like when I was even really sick, if it was my time to go, that was fine. Not feeling good and living was not fun.
Right.
I wanted to feel healthy. That was what I want. So yeah.
It sounds like yoga definitely like played a huge role in getting you through that.
Oh, it did. Yeah. Yeah.
And
It was a challenge. It was one of my most challenging times in my life. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, I think, and then Jen opening the studio right after my last surgery
right.
was like,
Like boom, here it is.
yeah, the Baptiste tradition. Yeah, it was pretty exciting.
What do you think that practice can do for people with mental illness?
Um, you know,
Can it have some like the same effects? Same kind of
well,
recovery?
I mean, I think it depends on the mental illness. I
Yeah.
mean, I think a lot of people, and I actually, back in the day, when I was a young mother and my kids were little, I used to suffer from anxiety and I'd get pretty stressed out. So I think nowadays, with the way our life is, again, social media, the news, it's all focused on fear-based news. The more fear-based news they can give to us, the better. And the challenges of people having to compete and, kids in school now, they have to get the good grades. I mean, people are suffering with anxiety more than ever.
Right. It's just part of our life now.
So, yeah, and I think people think, oh, that's a mental illness, which it can be. I mean, I'm not really, I don't know everything about that, but I do see when people come and practice and they relax their mind and they realize we have choices in how we feel and how we think.
Right.
And that's what the yoga practice can bring about, how we think and how we feel, that we don't have to choose to feel bad. Things happen in our life and we get upset because it's not the way we want them. And then we feel bad, or, and then that can snowball and we can feel bad and anxiety can grow. And I think if I hadn't started practicing yoga when I did, when I was getting, I mean, my anxiety was pretty high. Um, Again, I forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot about, I can totally picture myself driving my girls somewhere and just being so anxious. And, I wanted to be perfect. I wanted to
Yeah.
be the perfect mother. And it was, and I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. And then again, the yoga practice showed me what I was doing to myself, and how I could change it. Again, breathing deeply and doing all that just calmed me right down. And, then I looked for other sources and resources to read about,
Right.
how you can, that our thoughts really are a big deal, and the feeling and the emotion we put in our thoughts. Like, if something bad happens or we think it's a bad thing, it might not even be a bad thing, but that's where we go right away. We think, oh, that's a bad thing and this is a good thing. And then we can put really strong, emotional, painful thoughts into that, and then we get sick,
Right.
or something, or we get anxious. Where I've never seen so many people anxious and full of anxiety, and I can see that because I had it.
Yeah.
I had it for sure.
And do you think that's conscious or subconscious anxiety?
Um, well, I just don't think people have the tools to know that there's another way to think and be.
So it is conscious.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, my eyes have been opened, back in the day, and it's slow growing, eye opening, that, oh, I don't have to get really upset. Like when you go to a doctor and you show him a lump on your arm, he does, and if he thinks it's really bad, he's not going to freak out, because that would not be healthy for the patient, right? Even though
Right.
he knows it's bad, right? He's going to say, oh, let's take care of you. you know he's been trained. So then maybe when something happens to us, we can be like, okay, let's see what's next. Talk to ourselves, being kind to ourselves, knowing ourselves. And this is another thing, you can tell I love Brene Brown. She says the most important thing in our life is to know ourselves, to know who we are. And the most important thing in our life is to be kind to ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's, again, what you can learn in the yoga practice, is being kind to ourselves. I mean, if that's the number one thing somebody can take from their practice, is that they're real and they can be kind to themselves, and notice how they talk to themselves, and where they put their thoughts. Oh, this is awful and my life is awful and I suck. And that people say that in their minds all the time, or different things. Oh, I'm a klutz, I'm a this, I'm a
Yeah.
that.
And
And
they'll even
that's,
say it out loud sometimes, which just reaffirms it.
and
If
I've
they're
done it
able to.
myself,
Right.
I mean, we all do. And yeah, and then you have social media that you see, especially people who are famous, they post themselves in a swimsuit and there's people saying horrible things about them, and I just can't even imagine. So, you have that, as well. And if you read that, and then I don't know if kids like do that with each other in school, I'm assuming, and it's a little bit of a different world. But, if you go back in the day, people will say, this was bad. They'll say the world was bad many
Right.
years ago. So I think it's just an all evolving thing. But I really do feel, with people learning to be quiet the mind and know that there's an option there, people are going to start using that. Yeah.
And I have learned so much just by talking with you and practicing with you,
Mm-hmm.
and I definitely think this is what you were meant to do.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to why, like what keeps you going? What is your why?
Um, because it works. I believe in it 100%. You have to believe in something to keep doing it,
It shows.
you know? And I've had other people tell me, that, like I had a student who I used to work with, at the hospital, and she goes, the minute I came to your class, she said, I knew you had found where you're supposed to be,
Yeah.
and she knew me for years at the
Right.
hospital working, just doing the,
A
focusing on my work,
totally
drudgery, blah,
different
blah,
life.
blah. And, she's like, I see it in you. And I've been told that by other people, and uh, my why to keep going is the results. and I just want to share it with as many people as possible. There's a different way to be calm, to not reach for something else to make you feel better. And I'm the first one that likes to, you know, I could overindulge with something if I wanted to, like food especially, or I'll just, I can really be like, I can get really into TV shows and binge watch sometimes. It's really fun, but I don't want that to rule my life,
Yeah.
So I always find balance. And that's the one thing Baron Baptiste, balance,
Balance is huge.
equanimity,
Yeah.
balance in life. And my favorite thing now, like
And
relax over stuff.
to be conscious of the balance.
Yeah. But once in a while to do something is fine, to go and just not do yoga and do something different, but for a day or a couple hours, but it's
Yeah.
not,
Right.
but yoga is a way of life. It's a way of thinking,
Do the yoga.
do that yoga.
Do the yoga.
Yeah.
So, who do you look up to?
Who do I look up to? I look up to anybody who takes care of themselves and knows how worthy they are, and that you know, they're worthy, and they're live wholeheartedly. Because people who know to work and put in play in their life as well, and to like, you know, relax and take it easy and not think they have to be on top of doing, they give the list. I did 25 things today, and this is what I did,
Right.
so they feel worthy.
Right.
But
Let
just
go
to
of that.
work hard and then relax at the same time to kick back. Like I think, it's important to chill. People say chill in the summer. I think it's important to chill in the winter.
Yeah.
To do the hibernation thing a little bit. You know, and again balance. And pay attention to the warmer meals and the that kind of fortifying.
Yeah.
And then I think meditation is important. And like, there's nothing better for me. Like, there's sometimes I'll be at home and I don't want to get in the car, jump in the car and drive to yoga because it's cold. I have to be cold in the car.
Right. You find reasons.
I could find a
It's
reason, but then
rationalizing.
the minute I get in the car and I drive and I practice, I'm like, so never have I regretted going to a yoga class ever.
Ever.
Like ever.
Never.
Never. No.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Right.
How has yoga changed your perspective of people?
Well, I think with people, I'm softer around everybody. I think I judged myself back in the day, so you judge others. And now I see people and I meet them where they are, And
Yeah.
I have people come up to me and like, I could never do what you do. I could never practice. And it's like, that's okay.
Yeah.
You're perfect where you are. I'll have people come up to me and say, oh, I can't make your class, Lori. I wish I could make your class. This, that, whatever you're doing is perfect. If you're showing up for, wherever, do it. Just take care of yourself, and I just love meeting people where they are because that's exactly where they're supposed to be. Just like this 40 days that we do, people don't have to come in with knowing anything. There's no expectations on them. Meet them where they are. Show them there's different ways to be. That's
Right.
all we have to. Like even people get nervous coming into Tulivesi. I don't know
Yeah.
if you know that.
No.
Really intimidated.
No.
Yes.
No way.
Really intimidated about showing up. And, if they don't know, like they walk in, it's a new place. They don't know anybody. Everybody seems to be happy and friendly because we're a community and they're new, And for some people it's really easy and for some people it isn't.
I want to start noticing that more. I haven't noticed like the new people, they don't seem to shy away too much.
Yeah, I haven't, but I've heard people get intimidated and don't want to come. That's
Yeah.
what I've heard. And I
Some badasses
get
over there.
I get it,
Yeah.
What I really loved the other day at Honor Yoga, I had a new woman come in and she said, my husband bought me a pass and I'm new. And I said, okay. I said, let's put you in between these people here. And these two people spread their mats open and she put her mat down. And I said, take a look at each side. If you don't know a pose, look at, this girl or that person and you'll get it. I said, and you'll get it slowly over time and it'll be perfect. And then a student turned to her and said, hi, my name is Abby, welcome. And
That's
I'm like,
huge. That's huge.
that was just amazing. I was so excited.
And that's that spark that could just keep someone rolling
I know.
forever.
I know. It was the most perfect thing. And that's what I want to see. And that's how I want people to feel. Come in the door, do what you can. I mean, now I'm telling, people with yacht even, they're like, I don't know if I can do this. And they get scared. And I'm like, and I talk to them and I say, do your best, move slowly,
Yeah.
skip something. I said, you'll get it. And they're like, oh, I'm getting it. Yeah.
Right
So,
on.
yeah.
This has been awesome.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think to finish, I'd like to know what your ultimate goal is for yourself and for humanity. To end with a big one.
My ultimate goal is just to keep living who I am and be humble and, keep my faith is probably my number one thing. Do more things with my husband, like I've been on this trajectory of working with my daughters in their studios
Right.
and, but kind of him and I like spending more time together, like traveling a little bit more or just traveling in the Upper Peninsula,
Yeah.
now that we're at an age where we can do that more, stuff
Right.
like that.
Right.
I am excited more than looking at a specific goal. I'm excited to see what's next because, it's like things are showing up for me to say,
Yeah.
hey, do you want to do this? Hey, do you want to do that? And that's what I think is going to keep happening where I'm going to have this is here, step into it, or this is here, step into it, and then see what happens. So that's what I'm excited. And humanity, I think, with 2018, I think people are getting to the point where they're seeing that what's more important is family and,
That's refreshing.
I mean, I see it, and I just don't know if I'm like really hopeful. Family and maybe realizing it's not everything to work so many hours a week or to think, that that's where your worthiness
Right.
is
There's
and
no
on
merit to that.
how much work you work, and worthiness is just how you feel about yourself.
Happiness.
Yeah, just know you're enough. I think that's, people don't know they're worthy. So
That's
that's what I
beautiful.
want to see.
Thank you so much for being here, Lori. It
Hmm.
was an honor,
Yeah.
a privilege to
This
talk with you.
this was really fun. You're really good at this. You
Well,
should do this all the time.
thank you. I'm
Hmm.
planning on it.
Good.
Um, Planning on keeping it going. I
Hmm.
wouldn't have done it without yoga. I know that for sure.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, I can't wait to keep practicing
Yeah.
and take my own yoga journey.
Yeah, I
Thank you
know.
so much for
Hmm.
sharing yours
Hmm.
with us
Hmm.
and give us the details quick before we're all done on the 40 days. How do people sign up? Where to go? When to go?
Um, it's online at Tulivesi Yoga, or you can just, stop in the studio and sign up. It starts actually a week from today.
A
A
week
week
from
from
today.
today, yes, at 4 o'clock at
Imagine that.
Tulivesi. Yeah, and this is where you can start fresh. We're going to sit down and we're going to talk and we're going to share and we're going to go over the book and we're going to go over the questions and you're going to maybe be in a little group of 4 people or just one-on-one where you're going to share and talk. And then we have a confidentiality where we all have to stand up and say, this is confidential. It's not leaving this room. And we all have
Right.
to have that integrity of standing in that
Yes.
and then honoring each other and just lifting each other up for the next 40 days in
That's
whatever way
awesome.
possible.
That's awesome. I cannot wait. What is
Hmm.
the date on that?
So it's the 21st
21st,
at
4
4 o'clock.
o'clock,
Yeah.
Tulivesi Yoga.
Yeah. And it
Marquette.
lasts like 5, 6 weeks. So yeah,
Right on.
yeah, end of February.
Be there. Show up.
Yeah.
Show up for you.
Yeah. Show up for yourself. Yeah. That's a big one for me.
Rock on. Well, thank you again, Lori.
Hmm.
And for everyone out there, until next time, ride the waves, dude.